Hello, everyone, and happy Bank Holiday Sunday. Welcome back to the Roundtable, episode number 5. Today, we are going to dig into 3 main talking points. The first will be to get the boys that I'll introduce in a moment, opinions on the game yesterday, our 0-0 draw up in Hull. Then the second area of talking point will be Harris's persistence with Bradshaw. How do we all think about that? What do we think about the fact that Langstaff isn't getting as many minutes as maybe we all thought he would? And then the third one, just to wrap it off, we've got less than a week now until the transfer window closes. And what do we need in order to make sure we are the right end of the table? So with all of that, I'm going to introduce the panelists. And how lucky am I, by the way, genuinely, to have 3 panelists of this quality on the show. So in no particular order.
When are they coming on, mate?
Well, unfortunately, Joe, Angelo, Steve, George, Dan weren't available, so we've got the B team today. No, I'm only kidding. In no particular order, Ben, we'll start with you, mate. Welcome back. How you doing? You all right?
All good, mate. Thanks for having us again. Looking forward to having a chat to the boys. So yeah, thanks for having us, mate.
No, pleasure, mate. Always. Paul, how you doing, Paul?
Yeah, I'm all good, bud. I'm all good. Feel a bit better having a point in the bag. So
yeah, definitely a platform to build on, as I think Mr. Harris used those exact words. And Jesper, welcome back, mate. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. And just like Paul, glad that we're finally on the board with a point. Even though we didn't get 3, I think 1 was fair. So yeah, good.
Agreed. Well, look, let's start with that. I did my post-match straight after the game yesterday, which I won't lie, it was a bit interesting because you don't. Normally, I do it on the Sunday, so you have a little bit more time to think through and think through your opinion. So it was. I just thought I might as well get it out because I could and I wasn't doing anything. So really given my thoughts on it, and I personally felt it was probably in the end about a fair result. But Jesper, we'll come to you first of all. What was your thoughts on, result aside, what was your thoughts on the performance?
I thought we were back to being a bit of a solid Millwall team, like we saw at the back end of last season. I think it was clear for everyone to see that we were there to get a result. And I think we were very keen on keeping a clean sheet as well and being a bit more solid in the back and maybe less adventurous going forward. And I think it was fine. I think it would have looked bad if we came away with 3 defeats after 3 games. So that was a positive. I think as the commentator mentioned as well, that it didn't matter to Harris how we played as long as we got a result. Maybe that showed a little bit, but I was okay with that, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think the clean sheet was crucial yesterday. I feel it does. You know, I know we coin in the phrase that's been used many times, but it does give you a platform. It builds confidence in the back line with a goalkeeper. Paul, how much do you think that Japhet Tanganga played a part in that sort of more solid looking back line?
yeah, a big part, mate. A big part. He's at this level. He's like a Rolls Royce. And he makes, I think, the others more confident as well. And even when he got caught out once, didn't he? When on a counter attack, and just that shithousery, just to pull him back, take the book in. Whereas if he doesn't do that, then you don't know if they go on to sort of break away and they make a chance from it. But I just think, yeah, someone of his quality is just huge for us.
Yeah, I think he's got to be first name on the team sheet. To be honest, given that. And speaking of first name on the team sheet, our number 1, Lucas Jensen, Ben. Obviously, he's had a bit of a ropey start, I think it's fair to say. But yesterday had a good game, didn't he?
Yeah, definitely, mate. I think that we've said it a couple of times. We don't need to go into his first game, but I'm sure that would have been. I'm sure there would have been a lot of nerves kicking about for him that day. Obviously, it was Matty's big day. There's been a lot of spotlight on him, right? So I'm sure he would have been nervous. So I'm kind of happy to put a line through that. Bristol City, there was an improved performance, I think. Certainly no blame on any of the goals. And yesterday, made a couple of really decent saves. His kicking is leaving something to be decided, and we were all having a laugh about that yesterday. But look, as long as he keeps the ball out of the net, then yeah, he can keep kicking it off the pitch and doing what he's doing with his feet. But yeah, really good performance. And not only with his saves, Chris, he made, certainly in the second half, he came out and there was a couple of crosses that he started to come and claim. And for his size and stature, that's what you want to see from him, right? So hopefully he's starting to build that confidence up.
Yeah, and I think that's it was also really nice, by the way, for Joe Bryan to mention that in his post match. I don't know if any of you boys have seen it, but Joe Bryan he does come across like quite an articulate chap, should we say? And he did mention that Lucas had a good game, and I think again it's just sort of building confidence. And look, it takes time, doesn't it? It doesn't matter how good a goalkeeper is. I think for a goalkeeper and a defence, just to get used to each other, even with my Poxy Sunday League that I used to play, it did make a difference, right? So. I think that is something that factually he was the best goalkeeper in the league below last season. You don't just become a bad goalkeeper overnight. So long that may continue. And I think hopefully now we have a solid sort of back five unit that we can build on. Ben, sticking with you, what did you make of Joe Bryan's performance yesterday? I personally gave him joint man of the match because I copped out and went with 2 instead of 1. I gave him and Lucas Jensen the man of the match. Not a massive Joe Bryan fan since his time here. Both Paul and I hope this would be a season where he really gives us, that kind of quality. And I felt he did that yesterday. What do you think, Ben?
Yeah, definitely, mate. I'd probably up there one of his better performances in a Millwall shirt, I'd say. Joe Bryan's a player for me. Like we talk about people like Casper, Fleming. If they went to a better side, would we see better player in there? I think Joe Bryan is of that ilk as well. But when he was at Fulham, he was a top quality Championship fullback. I really like Bryan. If he can just stay fit, I think he's going to be a real asset for us. I think he's one of our better technical players. But yeah, on yesterday's performance, mate, defensively, which was the most important thing, because we've seen a few iffy defensive performances from him. I thought he was really strong. He clattered a few people, which obviously we love as Millwall fans. But yeah, as I say, one of his better performances for us. So yeah, I couldn't disagree with your cop out man of the matches, mate.
Yeah, oh, thank you. So I think we touched on yesterday's performance defensively, and I think summary is we kind of got our old Millwall back from last season. That last 13 games where we would keep clean sheets, we would stop teams from scoring. They probably should have had a penalty, if we're all honest with ourselves. But you win some, you lose some in football. Going forwards, though, we've scored 7. No, we haven't scored 7 goals. We've scored 5 goals in the league this season, which is very un-Millwall-like. We drew a blank yesterday. Yes, but what did you make of the chances we had? I guess I'm looking at the Savile one in the first half, Bradshaw's one. Do you think that we were unlucky? Should we have scored a goal? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just, I don't know. Savile's chance is a very good chance, and it's very well created by Rom as well. And that's what we see when he gets the ball in and around that area, what danger he can cause to other teams. So that was great to see. I just think maybe Savile should have hit it with his right foot, but it's hindsight is a wonderful thing. Bradshaw's on another day, if he hits it a yard right or left to the keeper, it goes in. So yeah, I think we were just a bit unlucky, maybe less clinical than the other games. But good to see again that we create these sort of clear-cut chances, because there's certainly been a lack of that last season. So yeah, I think that was positive. But beyond that, we don't really create that much more than we have Denor's scruffle in second half. But beside that, I can't really remember any clear-cut chances. Cooper's header as well. Yeah, he could have potentially done a bit better as well. Maybe he's a bit disappointed in himself, but I think all in all, we created enough to win the game.
And that's the frustrating thing, isn't it? I personally think that Hull at the moment, not a very good side. And I do think we could have won yesterday, which is all the more frustrating. I'm particularly disappointed we didn't challenge them more from set pieces, Paul. I don't know what you think, but that is something that it almost seems if we can win a foul on the halfway line, or we can get a throw in their half of their half, if you like, it's almost like having a set piece or a corner, isn't it? And I don't think we took advantage enough of those yesterday. Do you?
No, I mean, it summed up obviously with the free kick right at the end. It's going Honeyman, everyone's in the box, and I don't think it's landed yet. But yeah, he pinged it out, didn't he? But yeah, we just needed something to fall for us. I feel like there was enough good balls in the box, and like Jesper said with Cooper's header, that was a great cross by Joe Bryan, short corner, which we don't normally do. Great cross in, and he just kind of obviously headed it straight at the keeper. But yeah, just nothing fell for us, which is the opposite of the other league games. Everything's kind of dropped, or we've brilliant finishes, but we've made mistakes at the other end. Yesterday was the opposite. When Hull could have scored, we managed to keep them out. Great defending, and when we were on the attack, just that, like the North, you're talking millimeters. If the ball drops the other way, then you're walking away with 3 points. So it was a good overall performance, but yeah, just didn't fall to us, mate, did it?
No, and then when it did, it felt quite kindly in the end for Tom Bradshaw, didn't it? And then he hit it almost too straight, didn't it? If it had scuffed it or it had gone a couple of inches either side, then who knows? But that's the fine margins in football, and it is what it is. One of the things that I find quite interesting is Harris has talked a lot about in the first couple of games around getting that balance right between defence and attack. And he sort of alluded to yesterday, he felt that maybe because we drew a blank, that maybe he'd gone too far the other way. I'm not sure how I think about all this, because when you think of our front four, you've arguably got two of those in Tom Bradshaw and George Honeyman that are in the team for more their defensive duties, personally, than their attacking qualities. So I just find that all a little bit confusing. But that's probably a nice way for us to talk a little bit about Tom Bradshaw. Ben, I'll start with you, because I know that you are a Tom Bradshaw fan. I think it's fair to say, or at least you recognise what he brings to the team. But what's your thoughts on, Harris's persistence with Tom Bradshaw?
Well, I think there's been a word that's been bandied about quite a bit in terms of why Langstaff hasn't been playing, and it's been trust, right? I think Neil just trusts what Tom can do, and it is for those defensive attributes like you were talking about. And I think you saw it last year, or certainly in the back end with Romain playing. Maybe there was a lack of trust in what Romain could do going backwards, was the reason why he wasn't getting in the team. And I think that ultimately, I think Tom's playing because we know he can press. He's not in the team because he scores 15, 20 goals a season, because he's never done that for us, right? So it is his defensive work and getting us up the pitch that he can do. His link-up play, I wouldn't say is great either. So, look, I just recognise Bradshaw from, as I say, we talk about a Millwall-type player all the time, Chris, don't we? And I think, look, you can't get anyone more sort of Millwall-type than him. He gives 110% every week. He's not the best, as we keep saying. I think now, and on our show that we spoke about previously, it's about the transition of the squad, right? I think now he would just be a squad player for us. And when we have 3 games in a week, he would be a really good player to have play or start one of those games, come off the bench for the last 20 minutes. I think that's where we need to start transitioning, Tom. But yeah, I don't think he's going to be the answer moving forward. But I will never knock what he does for us ultimately, because I think he's done, tremendous things for us in terms of his defensive work and the effort that he puts into the shirt every week.
Yeah, and it's annoying because we're all agreeing with each other. So maybe we have to start being a little bit more controversial. But I do agree. I think that Harris certainly does trust him, and maybe he doesn't trust Idemo or Macaulay in the defensive work at the moment. I don't know what it is. Paul, what's your take on why Neil persists with Tom, and particularly where, I don't know what you guys thought, but I felt after sort of 70 minutes, he did look a little bit jaded.
Yeah, he was flat out on his feet, wasn't he? Firstly, I think it's sad for Bradders in a way as well, because people talk about him in a different way as to what he should. If he gets hooked after 60 minutes yesterday, they're like, he put in a shift. And if he comes on for the final 30, you'll be like, love him, bring Bradders on, chase them down, especially with how they were playing football. He can win it back high up the pitch. But instead, Harris is leaving him out there. I know you said before that you don't think Harris would do it on purpose I can't think of the word, but basically in a negative effect on the team. But I honestly think it's because he's sending messages to above. I honestly do. I think he's saying, right, Langstaff will be good at some point, but if I don't think I'm not playing him just because you've brought someone in. I think he's just saying, you need to get me what I want. You've got a week to do it. And And I know a couple of people in football, and there is a lot of that politics that goes on. So, yeah, I don't think he's doing it to negatively affect the team, but he's basically saying he's the only one I trust, so I'm going to leave him out there. And you can't guarantee either way if it would have made a difference. But to me, the fresh legs would have helped.
Yeah. Yes, but what's your stance on the Bradshaw debate?
I'd say I'm surprised because I go back to the interview as well that Macaulay Langstaff did himself when he signed for us, and what type of player he is. That he plays on the shoulder of the defense. He likes to press. He likes to go high. He likes to be aggressive, and all these attributes is also what Tom possesses. So I'm just a bit baffled that he doesn't get a look in at the moment. He gets 2 minutes yesterday. And sorry to say, it's just taking the mickey a little bit. You know, it's as Paul said, Bradshaw looked knackered after 70. Why not put him on? I mean, what could go wrong in 20 minutes, especially when you're playing up front? So I think it's a weird one. I do recognize that. I think he will start on Tuesday. I think he will get full 90 minutes on Tuesday. It's just my thoughts. I think Neil will want to experiment a little bit with some of these players that haven't played. So hopefully that can be a chance for him to maybe show what he's all about, because I think he deserves it. And it's taking nothing away from Bradders because he works his socks off for the team. But I just genuinely think we also need a striker who can put the ball in the back of the net sometimes. It's that transitioning, as Ben mentioned, that we maybe need, and we need to start maybe gelling him a bit now, that we need different types of strikers as well. So yeah, a little bit surprised about how he hasn't played more so far.
Yeah, I am too. I think he was trying to. I think Harris was trying to bring him on a little bit earlier than the 88th minute, and then the ball didn't go out of play for 4 or 5 minutes. He still would have only got 10, so I'm not defending that at all. Just a side note there, but it is a weird one. I personally think that it is a combination of he doesn't think he's ready, and my view is I have to trust Harris with that judgment. You know, he's a better judge than I am. And we all can sit here and say, oh, well, he scored this many goals and blah, blah. But it is a big step up, right? And, you know, maybe there's a reason why we signed him and he didn't go to a bigger club. Don't know. But I think Paul's right also in the sense that it is a message. And it's a message that we've got 5 days left in the window. And you need to go and find me a centre forward that's going to do that Bradders role, but just that little bit better. And that's my view. Ben, what's just to sort of wrap up on this section about Bradders? I think I personally don't want to get it to the stage where we've just talked about this, where people start to slate Bradders, because I think he's doing what he can, and I think he's at his limit. And at the end of the day, the bloke's 32 years old, and he's being asked to play week in, week out, and it's a thankless task in Millwall number 9 in this setup, isn't it? I would love to know, and it's the only stat I can't get, by the way, but the yards that the likes of him and Honeyman put in, because the work rate is outstanding. But how would you sort of wrap this up, Ben?
I think you just have, mate, in terms of I don't want it to get to a point come the end of the season where we're slating Bradders and we forget about the effort and the willingness that he puts in for the club and sort of the servant that he's been. But likewise, you said it's a thankless task there at times for him. Why is there not a place at the minute to say, why don't we try and play 2 up top? Because Idemo could have come and played alongside him. Bradders could have sort of, in that later part of the game, we were talking about we could potentially stretch it, take Bradders off and just put Idemo up there. But if Harris doesn't want to do that, is there not a place to say, well, couldn't we have gone 2 up top? Can't we give Bradders some help? I know we're particular, and again, we've spoken about trying to get a target man in, but I'm not even talking about this season, right? Even when Rowett was here and we were still playing 1 up top, we didn't give Bradders any help then. And the game sticks out was the Wigan away game a couple of years ago, when literally all we did for 90 minutes was hump it down their 3 centre-half throats, and all they did was batter Bradders for 90 minutes. He got absolutely untold amount of abuse, and I was standing there going, what's Bradders going to do against 3 6'4" centre-halves? But it was more just to talk about that. Is there a discussion to be had in terms of a change of formation to help Bradders? We've now got Idemo and Macaulay sat on the bench. Is there not a place to say we're changing formation and we might see the best out of all 3 of those?
That's a really interesting point because you got to add Fleming back in the mix as well, right? So where does Zian come back in? You know, like if you look at that front four at the minute, and you say that Fleming is not a direct replacement for Bradshaw, who does he replace? Because assuming that he does come back into the side, I mean, you'd be crazy not to play him, wouldn't you, Jesper? Like, what's your view on that?
I definitely see Fleming as a striker and not as a midfielder. If you look at the game we played against Sheffield Wednesday last season when Joe came in, his first game in charge, we set up in I would say a 4-4-2, Fleming just in behind Bradders. And I just thought it worked so well. And I think that's where he needs to play. So he can play as a striker. It would just be a slightly different 4-4-2 than if you had Macaulay and Bradders up front, which they are probably more your two number 9s, whereas Fleming is maybe more of a 10. But I can still see him fit into a 4-4-2 system in that way, where he just sits slightly deeper. I don't think we need to play a 4-2-3-1 or what is it called that we play now. I wouldn't be so hesitant to play him up there, actually.
There seems to be, not just at our club, but generally in football, just this persistence to stick with one up top. I think even Hull yesterday, they took off Burstow and put Bedia on. They didn't go with two up top. Do you think, Paul, that we should switch to a 2? And would you include Fleming in that 2, or do you think he needs to be somewhere else?
I see him more as a cam. I do see him more as a cam personally, just because he doesn't have maybe I don't know. He's odd. I don't think he has the best movement. I think that's how we've got him. Basically, he's not the fastest, and he doesn't. If he could time runs and stuff, he's got ability in the air, and his finishing is brilliant. So, if you could get him doing that, arriving late in the box, to me, that's what you try and get him doing, like the Cahill, basically. That's in a nutshell how I'd want him playing. I could see us going 2 up front, but not at the minute because he doesn't trust anyone else. So we've only got Bradders up there. I think eventually he will, and it all comes down to timing. So at the minute we lost 2 league games in a row, and I think he was more worried about losing again. So he kind of half shut up shop, and it went against us, to be honest, because there was only going to be one winner, I think, in the last kind of 10 minutes watching it. But yeah, he was more worried about losing a 3rd game in a row, another late conceding. Yeah, so that's my thoughts, Bob.
Yeah, and you know what? I think you're right, because if we'd have lost late on yesterday, you think of 3 late defeats. I think that the morale and the people look at it very isolated and go, "Oh, he should have gone for the juggler and stuff." And I kind of get that, but at the same time, we've had 3 away games on the trot, obviously including the cup. To have then lost the 3rd straight game, I think that could have been pretty damaging to the overall morale. So I do kind of get that.
I do think so as well. I do think with Watmore yesterday, when he went off, I think that actually changed the game as well, because I think he massively helped out Joe Bryan. If you watch defensively, he was just always in the perfect place at the perfect time. So, and when Aziz come on, obviously he moved Esse across, and I feel like Esse's learnt the movements. Harris wants to be in from the right side, and a couple of times he got caught out on the left side, and they 2v1. I can't think of the player they brought on. It was just running in the inside asset Jarvis in the channel, and he just created havoc by just running in a straight line. But yeah, so we'll get there.
So do you think then, staying with you, Paul, do you think that is that not even more argument to have then brought on Idemo? Because
yes,
the way I look at it is you've got 2 on the right hand side, which will be Esse and Aziz. And then you've got 2 on the left-hand side, which is Duncan, Idemo. So if Esse can't do the defensive diligence on the left, then bring
a marker on. Yeah, I agree with that. You'll get to know me hopefully over the next year, and I'm a man of theory. So again, we found out on Friday he's got a year left on his contract, Esse, and it's very important that he's playing. So again, is Harris leaving him on as well because he wants him to feel like you're going to be my main man this year, and he has performed really well. So he's not going to willingly take him off. Yeah, that might be absolute nonsense, by the way, but in my head, that's how my brain works. Nonsense.
I think you're onto something, because Harris, sorry, Neil Harris Mourinho, as
Yeah.
he's been touted in the press this week. I don't know what Jaffet's smoking. But no, I think joking apart, Neil is an excellent man manager. I think anyone that you speak to that's played with him, for him, etc. And is there a bit of that going on with him? To your point, is he like, Rom, listen, you are my main man. You're going to start every game. I'm going to keep you on the pitch to just try and keep him at the club. I mean, Ben, how important is it, do you think, that we are able to keep Romain at the club beyond this season?
I think just so. Listen, he's not gonna fire us to the Premier League, right? And I want to say that in the nicest possible way, in terms of he's a young lad, he's an England international, but he's not going to carry Millwall to the Premier League. He's not that good. He's not that single one player, if you get what I mean. He's our most valuable asset in terms of what we can do beyond Rom. And there will be a point where we look to sell him, or big clubs come in for him, because it's going to naturally happen. So it's really important for me that this year he shows progression again. He performs better. He's a mainstay in the side. And then when that time comes, he's got a lot of value. Because I think when there was rumours last year of him leaving, we'd spoken about it a lot. It was, well, what are they buying? They're only buying potential. He hasn't put up any numbers. He's not playing. So the figure potentially would have been a lot less. If he can continue the form that he's shown this year, and that's a big if, because he's a young lad and the championship's hard, right? But if he can continue it, put numbers up on the board, it's going to increase his value. And that's the most important thing for me. So look, whilst I want him to perform really well in a Millwall shirt, it's about what he can then bring to us in terms of a fee, ultimately. And it's going to sound harsh to a lot of people, but as I say, that's the way the club need to be and need to be run. We need to improve young players and look to sell them for profit that we can then reinvest into having a deeper, stronger squad, which then could propel us to the Premier League.
Absolutely spot on, mate. I think, we did a show, didn't we, last week, where we talked about the transfer windows and how we're solving all the time for short term here and now. And we have to, as a club, get better at selling players. When's the last time we sold a player for a fee? I think it was like for a proper fee, and it was George Saville, wasn't it? All those years ago. We have to get better at that. And he is the one, Zian aside, that you look at and you think he could. And the thing that gives me a bit of confidence is he's impacting games by starting now. I think that's something that I haven't yet seen from Idemo. Idemo has impacted a lot of games off the bench, where he comes on for the last 20 minutes and, fullbacks are tiring and he's got that blistering pace. But I think he's the one that then needs to start impacting games from the start. But we have a new winger, forward, whatever you want to call him, in town in Aziz. He came on yesterday for a brief cameo. Yes, but what did you make of Aziz's, albeit debut?
Well, as you mentioned, he didn't play more than 20 minutes, and we were not exactly camping them in their own half, so he wasn't on the ball very much. I think he looked all right. You could see he wanted to take his man on every time he got the ball, which is a positive. I think we need these sort of players on the wings as well. But yeah, fairly okay debut. Didn't set the world on fire, but I think he can be a good asset for us down the line for sure.
Yeah, he looked like he wants to take people on, which we need. He looked like he was gonna work fairly hard. He didn't seem the quickest, but then been told that from a few Reading fans. So, but we need ball carriers. We need players that can just relieve the pressure of the defence, rather than us just lumping it up to poor old Bradders up top. But yeah, he looked all right. Paul, Ben, what did you boys make of? Well, actual fact, tell me a bit more about what you make of the signing. Come to you first, Paul, and then obviously his brief cameo yesterday.
Yeah, he's a good age. I had a little look into him. He's kind of, last season was the standout season, so obviously hopefully can consistently get to them levels. But he was pulling up the same numbers as the other, like Poku from Peterborough and people, and they're going for like 3-4 million. Peterborough want for him, so yeah, it's a good deal for the club. He's got lots of potential. Works hard. He seems quite eloquent. with his engineering degree, and he come across well in his interview. So I'm hoping he'll fit in well. And yeah, like you say, we need people to carry the ball up the pitch. So fingers crossed. By the time he gets settled in, I imagine he'll start on Tuesday against Orient, and yeah, we'll kind of get him integrated into the system. And I can see Rom going over to the left sometimes, and he's left-footed, isn't he? But he mainly plays on the right.
I think they're both left. I think both Rom and
they're both left-footed. Yeah,
isn't they? Yeah, yeah.
But I just it's just good to have options. I think you can't have enough attacking options in the Championship, and we haven't had that for a long time. So I'm all for it, mate. And I can't judge him on yesterday because he's just signed. He's been thrown in. He come on the pitch, did a bit of skill that I've not seen before. Overran it, ball went out for a goal kick, and I thought he'd do for me. He'd do for me.
He's got the seal of approval from Millwall.
That's it.
Love it. Ben, anything further to add on Aziz before we close out that one?
No, very, very similar to Paul, to be fair, mate. I'm not going to sit here and claim that I knew everything about Aziz before we signed him. I had a little look into his numbers and what he did last year. And yeah, exactly what Paul said. Similar players have been touted about to go for higher figures. I think you could see his intent, which you mentioned, mate, which was the main thing. He wanted to get on the ball. He wanted to take his player on. We don't have too many players like that outside of SA. So, yeah, hopefully he'll add a little bit of something different. I did notice at the end when, it wasn't the greatest of passes from Honeyman, but I thought, yeah, we're in here. Femi's going to get round him, and he looked like he was treading in tar. But,
yeah, that was the bit I was like, he's not that quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't. I'll give him the benefit of that. It wasn't the best of passes from Honeyman. He did give him a lot to do, but I did think at least, if he can nick this, we got half a chance of getting in. But yeah, look, as I say, we haven't got too many massively gifted players in the final third, so if he can add a little bit of something different, then yeah, hopefully it'll be a useful signing for us, mate.
Definitely, and I think the age is key. It's nice to bring that average age down of our aging forward line. So just to summarise, I'm going to use Jesper's words from yesterday. Actually, it's a text he put in our group chat, and I think it's perfect to move on to the next section, which is positives. Tango back, clean sheet, created some good decent chances again, but not clinical enough. Points on the board, another good away performance, and then Ben goes on to say no point on the road is a bad one. And I think both of those are very fair summaries. I should have just put that up yesterday on my post-match because I think that summarised it perfectly. So as we move on to sort of the sort of final talking point, then we're going to go and talk a bit about what we need, right? What do we need in the next 5 days? We've notoriously in the last couple of windows, we've done quite a lot of business right at the end. So that's what gives me optimism, if you like, for a few more numbers in the building. Yes, but what do you think we need in the next few days?
Well, it's just been confirmed that Nisbet is heading to Aberdeen, so we definitely need a striker. Whether we need a target man or something different, I'm not sure, but we definitely need a striker because the only target man we can come up with at the moment is either Coburn, which we talked a lot about, but doesn't seem to happen a lot. And now I think the latest we talked about was Lyndon Dykes, who was not in the team for QPR yesterday. And I would say this, I wouldn't mind if we bring Dykes in on a season loan, if that's the option that we have at the end. But I don't think it would be so good that if we buy him. I don't think, because then all the business we've done so far, because Gallen wants to bring in younger players, right? And we want to be a bit more progressive in our transfer business. So signing Lyndon Dykes on a 2 or 3 year contract wouldn't make sense to me. But I could see a season loan happening if we can't get Coburn, if he's too expensive. Then maybe it's fair enough if it's that type of striker that we want in. And then we were also linked with Luke McAnally, I think, last week. And this guy from Scotland, the other defender, what was his name? Rocky something. Yeah, exactly. And I think we could do with another central defender, because if Tango gets injured, suspended, whatever, the options we have, I rate Hutchinson in ways in terms of his leadership and so on, but I just think we're a bit fragile, to be honest. So I could see definitely a defender coming in I think in midfield we're okay. I think we also forget that Honeyman can also play in central midfield. So you would have, when Mitchell's back, you'd have Mitchell, Honeyman, Saville, Denor, Kelly, and even Alfie Massey. Those are 6 options you have to play. So I think in midfield we are okay. Also on the wings, you mentioned Idemo, Watmore on one side, SA and Assis on the other. So I think in the striker department and defence, I'd definitely like to see a couple of additions.
Yeah, we agree. We always seem to be linked back with Lyndon Dykes when it's almost like no matter who the recruitment person is, it's always like a little black book of Millwall type players that they go back to if they can't find anyone else.
I think
And
they just leave it on the side, mate. I mean, they just as a revolving door and they just open it straight away.
I know it's doesn't matter who's at the club. It's like, yeah, this is it. Lyndon Dykes does look like he's going somewhere, doesn't he, Ben? You know, he wasn't in the squad yesterday. Hearts fans think he's gone there. You know, we've been rumoured with him for the last 87 transfer windows, and then you've got Blackburn and Birmingham fans think he's going there. If it was Lyndon Dykes, do you agree with Jesper that you'd be okay with that on a season-long loan? What's your view there?
Probably come to the worst person, mate, to talk to about Lyndon Dykes. I'm just not a fan, mate. Let's look at it a bit logically. Does it fill a void in terms of what we need as a target man? Yes. That's about as much as I can come up with in terms of positives. He's not for me. I'm not his biggest fan. He will fill a void for us in terms of the target man, as I just said. Would I like us to spend £1 million, £2 million quid? I don't know what it would cost to get him out of QPR permanently. No. So if it was a loan option, we need bodies up there. So I'm going to say yes, I'll take him on that basis. But yeah, you probably come to the worst person to ask about Lyndon Dykes, mate.
No, not at all, mate. Like that's what we want. We want debate. If that's your opinion, then you know, for what it's worth, I think he would be an half decent signing. I think he would do the Bradders role slightly better than Bradders, being honest. Does he excite me? No. But then we've either got some amazing centre forward from somewhere on the continent lined up that no one's ever heard of, and we're just keeping it really close to our chest, or we've not been looking. And I don't know what the answer to that is. Do you, Paul?
Sorry, mate, just before we go to Paul, I was just going to say, my concern is if we get another striker in, and this is just purely based on a Langstaff thing, right? Clearly, again, we spoke about it on our show the other day, right? Where does that put him in the pecking order? So say it is Lyndon Dykes, just for the sake of this argument. He comes in as probably the number 1. Bradders then becomes number 2. Are we saying Langstaff's then going to be number 3 in the pecking order if we stay with one up top? Because that concerns me. He's a permanent signing that we've made. I said it 100 times in the group, right? It really must be the only club that could sign a geezer that scored 1,000 goals in three seasons, and we can't get him on the pitch. So does that mean he's going to be number 3 if we go and get another one and we're only going to play one up top? Does it mean we're going to look at a change of formation? So that's the only thing that I'm worried about if we go and get another centre forward in.
Yeah. What's your view on that, Paul?
I'd snap your arm off to get him on a loan. Obviously, it's not our money at the end of the day. So what the club decide to do, they decide to do. I do think he'd be brilliant for Harris. I agree, he doesn't excite me, but he would offer us stuff that others can't. So, for instance, Jensen's kicking. You commented on that earlier. The reason why he's trying to kick. He's not very good at kicking anyway, but he's trying to kick it right to the wing. And the plan is not for us to win the ball. It's so that our winger jumps, their defender heads it out, and we've got the ball up there end of the pitch. If you have someone like Lyndon Dykes, it can just punt the goal kicks down the middle, and Dykes hopefully will either flick it on or hold it up. So you've got the benefit there. You've got Leonard's throws. It's another big one in the box, defending corners. It'd be the one on the front post of Morrison, heading everything clear. So I completely get it. But it doesn't score many goals. So it would then be a case of other people having to chip in with the goals. I think he's scored less than Bradders has the last few seasons. So it's a like for like, and it would worry me about Langstaff as well. I do agree with that. But I just feel that's the way it's going to go.
I'll be honest. A Dykes Langstaff front two does it does sound quite good to me. I'm not going to lie. You know, Dyke's doing the sort of. He's got that sort of. Listen, we don't even have one of these two players, and neither of them played any minutes for Millwall. So when I draw this conclusion or comparison, please, you know, bear that in mind. But it's got that kind of Gregory Morrison style of link where you've got the sort of bigger man, the link man that's going to do the work, if you like, sort of going the channels, winning the headers, flick-ons, holding the ball up. And you've got a non-league striker that scored bundles of goals lower league that if he can find his feet, can feed off of that. That's where I'm drawing comparisons. And I quite, that does excite me. Personally, go on, mate.
That was just going to, do you know the only thing that's wrong with that sentence? So I completely agree. And there's just one person then that means Ian Fleming's not playing. So don't get me wrong, if Ian Fleming gets bought before Friday, then that might well be something we look to do. But Rowett tried to shoehorn Fleming on like the left wing, didn't he? And it was horrendous experiment. So I don't think maybe we should. Maybe that is the way forward, dropping Ian Fleming. But that's a big thing to do when he's meant to be. Obviously, I know Essay's coming through, but he's the other most saleable asset.
Yeah, and I don't know whether the plan, if you like, and if I'm honest, I don't really know what our recruitment plan is, and Ben and I did a show on this, but I don't know whether the plan. Yeah, that little book. I've got it here actually. It's. I don't know whether the plan was to actually offload Bradshaw this summer, and hear me out, because there was a lot of rumours about Wrexham. Right, and they were apparently prepared to pay a fee for him. And I don't know whether this is almost Harris's frustration, because he was like, I was expecting to bring in two strikers. I was hoping Nisbet would come back with a better attitude and hit the ground running. And therefore, we could get a bit of money for Bradders. Bradders could get a 2-3 year deal, sorts him out nicely, right? He's set up for 2 or 3 years. He's going to be a number one in a League One side. And then also potentially even the view that Fleming might go. And we were going to build almost a completely different forward line on the basis that those two were going to go out the door. So far, we haven't been able to move Bradshaw on because he's the only one that Harris trusts to play that role at the moment. And Fleming's been injured, which has scuppered any chances of any moves. That's based on no knowledge, but I can see that being potentially, plan. I don't know. It's probably a bit of a stretch, but you get where I'm going. Jesper touched on central midfield, and his point of view was that he didn't think we needed another central midfielder for all the reasons that he mentioned. Ben, what's your view? Do you think another central midfielder is needed? Is that sort of thing you'd be looking to do in this window?
No, not for me, mate. And for the exact reasons that Jesper mentioned, I think we've got cover in there. And if say we're staying with the same formation, easy for me to say. If Zian's coming back in and going to play where Honeyman's playing, I've been such a big advocate for this. I would love to see Honeyman drop deeper. I think the energy that he gives us, certainly alongside Sav now, because that was one thing that a bit of a takeaway from me yesterday, is that Sav seems to be struggling a little bit more later on in games. He's going to have a lot of workload to be doing throughout the season. I would love to see someone in there, whether it's Billy with a bit more energy next to him, whether it's Honeyman in that deeper role. I just think he gives us that. He gets about the pitch really well. It's his key attribute, right? We always talk about Honeyman, how hard he works every week. I suppose a bit like Bradders. He's probably not the best technically, but he gets about the pitch a lot. So I think we've got enough cover in there. Your post-match, mate, I don't know how long Billy's going to be out for. We've got Massey, we've got Kelly. I know they're young lads, but if you looked at it from a squad perspective, you almost got two sort of first team players. You've got two sort of squad players or players that can play there, and two youngsters that can fill in there. So I think we've got enough cover in the middle, mate.
So I'm going to do something that I don't think I've done on this show so far, and I'm going to disagree with you. I'm going to disagree with both of you. With the greatest respect, because we're all gentlemen here, I disagree. And the reason I think we need a central midfielder, I think we've needed one from game one, is because I think there is a gap between August and January. the assumption that Billy Mitchell comes back, I don't know, say November time, but he needs time to get back up to fitness. And I don't think it's fair to assume that Daniel Kelly and Alfie Massey, I think Alfie Massey will go out on loan for what it's worth. I don't know that, but I just reckon he will. I don't think it's fair to assume they can come in and affect the team. I think we need someone who's got championship experience. And I don't think Harris sees Honeyman as a central midfielder. I could be wrong. And I know he can play there, but I don't think Harris has played him there before. So when you put all that into a pot, I think we need some more legs and someone who can be someone of a championship experience. And I fully expect us to sign a central midfielder this week.
Do you think Honeyman's playing further up though there, Chris? Because he's still saying that I haven't got anyone up there that I can trust to do that 10 role. We haven't got Zian fit in a minute. Is he playing there because he has to? Do you not think he could? No, that's just probably the wrong question. Do you not think Harris could see him dropping back?
I don't know. My opinion is that Harris sees Honeyman as one of his front four. Look, that's not me saying I think that. I'm saying I think that Harris sees him as that. And I do like some of the things that Honeyman brings up there. There are some good, like the pressing. I think our pressing has been excellent this season. I mean, but again, you're talking defensive qualities, not going forwards. Paul, do you think we're going to sign a central midfielder?
Yeah, I do think we will. Yeah, I do. What you were saying is pretty much echoing your thoughts, to be honest. I do think Honeyman. I think we've got enough, and you could play Honeyman there. I don't think we will use him there. If I imagine it to like you throw a ball to Honeyman, he's just going for it. He's going for it, and I think sometimes when he plays deeper, he hasn't got that. He has a responsibility, so he's not free to just go chasing around like a madman trying to win back the ball because he'd leave the other one exposed. So I think we do try and use him further up. I like the idea of Malumbi when that was touted, but I'm not hearing great things on that. So if you could get a short-term loan till January, get Billy back fit, let Kelly settle in, get a few months training, and get Massey out on loan, then to me that would be that would make sense at this point in time.
Alan Campbell's free, I think, Paul.
Free to do what though?
Mate, that's just
still don't understand that one. That's a pod in itself.
It is. Do you know what? I can see him ending up at like Charlton with Nathan Jones.
Probably. Yeah. Let's not talk about them. They're upsetting me.
Yeah, they're pissing me off too. All right, so we need a centre forward. 50% of the panel think we need a centre midfielder. The other 50% don't, which is great because we're all too nice to each other. So it's good to have some kind of disagreement. And then just finally, defensively, Ben, what do you think we need more defensive cover? And if you do, where would you prioritise that if you had one?
I think certainly another centre half, mate. Sounds like me and Jesper were just talking off the same. We discussed this before the show. Yeah, I think another centre half, mate, because it does worry me. If Coops or Jaffet get injured, I know Coops just doesn't get injured, touch wood. But Jaff, look, he has been fragile over the years, right? So there is that possibility. We saw possibly Hutch's defensive frailties against Bristol City. He's going to have even less game time now, I'd imagine, with Tanganga back. So we said about his lack of game time possibly being an excuse. He's not going to get much now, as I say, with Tanganga back in. So I think we do need a bit of defensive cover in the middle. I think the fullbacks I'm quite happy with, just because Danny Mack can play either side. We saw him fill in last year at left back. So yeah, I'm happy with him playing there again this year. So yeah, I think certainly defensive cover in the middle would be something that I prioritise.
Yeah, I think that would probably allow Harding as well to potentially go out and play first team football, which I know he craves, if you like. He wants to be playing. I think he's 27. He wants to be playing first team football. Okay, so we need a centre forward, possibly a centre mid and a centre back. So Steve Gallen, if you're listening to this, there is your wish list from Chat with Chaps podcast.
I'll have a left back if I'm allowed.
Are you on a left back as well? Okay, so
yeah.
I mean, I want two centre forwards as well, but I can't be too picky. So we want to
just on that, mate. Did it concern anyone else? Harris only saying that we're getting one, possibly two in, because in my Millwall pessimistic head, that just sounds like we're getting one in. And I think we need a lot more, as we've just discussed, right?
Yeah. Yes, I think is the answer. Especially
it depends who goes as well, doesn't it? That's the hard thing. If you get someone come in and offer to take Murray Wallace and Harding's wages off, then they need replacing. So that number, I'm hoping it's one or two, plus we replace everything that. Well, we need two, plus we need to replace anything that leaves, anyone that leaves.
Yeah, I think a fairly successful week would be a centre forward, either someone like Coburn permanently or someone else on loan. For me, a short-term central midfielder, and then if Harding or Wallace go, you replace them with some more depth. I think that would probably be the outcome that we'd take that. And then I think we probably need, and maybe it's another show, we take a step back and say, is that a good window or not? Not just for the here and now, but for the longer term, like Ben and I did last week. Gents, we're up to 51 minutes. I don't know how. I remember looking at 12 and thinking, we've got a long time to go, and we have certainly covered a lot of ground. But I'm going to come to each of you for any final thoughts. Jesper, I'll start with you first, mate. Anything else that you wanted to sort of share with the listeners?
Not really. I am a bit excited and a bit nervous about the week ahead. See what we end up with, what signings we make, who goes out, who goes in. Also a bit surprised that we haven't been linked with any loan moves so far. I mean, it's all been permanent signing, which is brilliant, because last season we had 5 signings on loan, which is too critical, I think. So, no, just really excited about the week ahead. Interesting to see who plays on Tuesday, and just really looking forward to Sheffield Wednesday and Saturday. Hopefully we can get the first win and really get cracking.
That would be ideal. Sheffield Wednesday, they didn't look great, did they, against Leeds? Ben,
can I just mention one thing as well? I just watched the highlights from the entire championship today. The amount of teams who tries to play out from the back and fails miserably is surprisingly high. I mean, it is really something we need to look at when we look at teams we have to play, because some teams are just trying too hard with material that they don't have, and it really surprises me. But you should have a look at the highlights. It's quite comical as well.
Okay, so if I want to laugh later, I'll watch that. To be fair, it is my first win anniversary, so I'm doing as all good husbands do and doing a podcast and then I'm going to go to the pub. I'm only kidding. No, I will watch that. And do you know what? Like, that's why I do think Honeyman is quite effective up the top, because of the amount of teams that do play out from the back. And I do think that his pressing is, if you was to say to me, what is the number one thing that Honeyman brings? It's that he will press for 90 minutes. He seems to have some engine on him. So that's the only consideration with him. But Ben, any final thoughts from you, mate?
No, just looking back at the result again yesterday, as I said, at any point on the road, I think it's a good one. Echo your sentiment in the fact I think Hull will improve as they get more players in and towards the end of the season, mate. So I think that will be a good point come the end of the season. And yeah, I'm with Jesper on Sheffield Wednesday. I know they played Leeds, right, but they didn't look great. They certainly get atable, if that's a word, at home Saturday. So it is now. They were a side that I highlighted that could be up there, but they don't seem to have improved a huge amount from last year. So, look, fingers crossed, 3 points Saturday. And I don't know if I'm nervous or excited about the week for transfer-wise. So I'll leave that for Jesper to be excited about that one. But, yeah, hopefully 3 points Saturday, mate. And, just my thoughts. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I know you're going to do that bit at the end, but we need those subscriptions.
Yes, mate. Yeah. Thank you for that. I actually forgot. So it should be on my... Yeah, I've said it enough, so I should just remember it. Thanks, Ben. Paul, anything from you to close out, mate?
No, just echoing the boys' thoughts again, really. Hopefully get a few of the squad players, get a game Tuesday, and we'll come through injury-free. And then we've got a massive few days in the transfer market. And then, like you said about Sheffield, every game I've watched, I've watched quite a lot of other teams as well. And everyone seems kind of average. I don't feel like this league, the quality, maybe it's because it's early days, but I feel like we'll be fine. So long as we bring in 2-3, we'll be absolutely fine. So fingers crossed, we're getting through the door and a couple of home wins.
Yeah, I mean, Burnley looked great, didn't they, in the first 2 games, and then lost to Sunderland. So, but then Sunderland, not many people had them in the top 6, but Gab Sutton, who we had on the show here, tipped them to be top, and maybe he knew something we didn't because they've looked pretty good this season. So who knows? But that's the beauty of the Championship, and that's the beauty of football. Gents, thank you very much for giving up some of your Bank Holiday Sunday to join us. Much appreciated, as always, having all 3 of you on the show. So thank you very much. For those of you listening, thanks for the reminder, Ben. Yes, please do like, share, subscribe. We were at 944 subs, I think. We're 56 subs away from that 1,000, which is the aim. So please subscribe. If you're not sure if you're subscribed, just have a quick check. Get yourself subscribed. We've got loads of shows coming out in the next week. And as soon as we get to 1,000, not only can we start donating money to charity, but we have a Paul Ifill interview as well, which will be fantastic. I'm looking forward to recording that one. And that's it. Thank you very much for listening. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye for now.